Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mastermind Moments podcast.
Hosted by your pals, Josh and Sasha.
Join us during our weekly mastermind as we collaborate on how to make the most out of our lives.
Not only are we going to mastermind our careers, we're going to work on all areas of life together.
Let's do it. Listen in as we make the most of our mastermind moments.
Hi, hello. We're here today with our pal Veenu from Tony Robbins Summer Camp, obviously, because when do we have a guest on that's not from Tony Robbins or Tony Robbins Summer Camp? So, hi, Veenu. It's good to see you.
Hi.
She was just asking me when we were off mics about how Josh and I started this podcast. And I think like we've always kind of kept in contact. And then I think we got really close again because we've kind of gone through waves where we have been like close or not close, and then we kind of got close again through COVID. I think we just got on one of those like 2-hour calls and we started sending voice messages back and forth, and that was just the way we communicate. And like every week we'd both be sending these like really long voice messages, kind of like podcasting back and forth. And I launched my own podcast in 2023. I wanted to tell friends and family. I told them a year after I was working on it, and I wanted to do kind of like an intro episode. So I figured like Josh and I basically podcast together all the time. So that was our first time sitting down and actually recording together. That must have been March 2024?
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, March 2024. And then the feedback was just so good. People like loved hearing our dynamic, and we just continued to send voice messages. And we're like, well, we want to have a mastermind and we want to mastermind each week. Well, why don't we just record them? And if you want to listen, cool. But if not, just getting on the phone with my best friend once a week and like chatting through our goals. So here we are now. It's been, I think this is episode 69 or 70. So it's,
Love it.
yeah. It's so good to see you. How you been?
I have been absolutely fabulous. And when I saw that you guys were doing this, it really just touched my heart because like I've watched you guys since you were 14. Like I literally met you guys when you were 14, and watching you guys just come through this, and like that's what these camps were about. These leadership camps were about saying, hey, I see your greatness. Do you see it? And if you don't yet, keep going because you're going to. And then watching you guys come into your greatness. It's like full circle for someone like me who's got to see you all when you were like itty bitty, I guess. Well, Josh, you're not itty bitty, but you're probably taller than me back then. Anyway, but still, it's just beautiful. And like when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I would love to come on your podcast because there's things I'm doing in the world to heal the world. And I feel like that's what podcasts are, right? It's either giving people a break and entertaining, or it's giving them something to learn.
Yes, exactly. And
Or
sometimes
gossiping.
both. Or gossip, yeah. Or sometimes all of the above, definitely.
Yes.
It's been cool. Before we get into like the meat of everything, let's just spin a wheel really fast. So, social. What activities or events do you enjoy that help you build social connections?
So for me, it's part of growing too, because it's going to events. Like I'm a part of different mastermind groups. I am a trainer for Tony Robbins. I am a strategist for Your Best Life. I'm in another group called Jet Set Go. I'm in another mastermind with Garrett Gunderson called Multiplier. So that's what I do to create community, because one thing I learned from Tony Robbins back in 2007 is you are the company you keep. And so when I was looking at like, how am I going to grow my life? I was a single mom at 34, very suicidal at that time. And so I was like going to Tony Robbins, and I had to look around like, who are my friends? And my friends were just like me, depressed, single parents, working 9-to-5 jobs. And like, that's all life was. And I was like, I mean, not everybody was depressed, but you know what I'm saying? Like we were the same economics and the same struggles, the same problems. And so all of a sudden I'm like, well, that's the first thing I need to change. Like I need to change my peer group. And I didn't even know that these peer groups existed before. And so I just started crewing. And then I did leadership, and I became a trainer. And then from there, you learn about other mastermind groups and other people because you're just networking. And the people you networked with became your friends, and they're the people you can rely on. And it's kind of like you and Josh, right? Like you guys met at a leadership camp, and who knew years later you guys would be best friends doing a podcast, and that created a whole social structure for you guys. And so it's the same for me. I mean, there was a time I would go to bars and like those weren't the type of people I wanted to hang out with. And so as I changed, like I saw myself literally right before my eyes, like literally changing because like I stopped going to bars, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking. And then I started hanging out with people that didn't drink all the time, that didn't go to bars, that didn't smoke. And so I noticed that like it's exactly that. You become who you hang out with. And so I'm always looking for people that are a step ahead of me because I want to learn from them, but I also want to be able to give back to them too. So what's my area? What's my gifts? What's my area of expertise that I can give to other people while they are giving me their areas of expertise and gifts in the world? And I feel like that in itself builds a whole social ecosystem.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Proximity is power. And what is it they say? You're the direct sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think it's something that I've really struggled with in recent years, in the past, obviously coming from the Robbins environment and having an amazing, amazing, inspiring peer group, so many of which have gone on to do incredible things. And then kind of coming back to reality, back in the UK where I have my school friends and swinging between the two, I think it's really important to have that strong peer group and people who inspire you, people who are, as you said, a level above you so that you can push yourself to become better. Because if you're surrounding yourself with people who are, I don't want to say beneath you, but, kind of on a lower frequency, it drags you down to that frequency. So I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I don't even think it's about economic structure. I think it's about energy, like you said. It's literally about energy. Like I was in my mastermind group last week with Garrett Gunderson, and he said, create your visions bigger than your problems.
That's a good
And I was
one.
like, oh, snap on that, right? Like when we look at our life, no matter how old you are, you could be 13, you could be 37, you could be 52. And it's time to reevaluate. Are my problems bigger than my vision, or is my vision bigger than my problems? Because whatever's bigger is going to pull you.
Yeah. I had never heard that one before. And I feel like when you're kind of in the personal development world, you tend to hear the same things over and over again. But that's a really good point. Like, is your vision bigger than your problems? Because whatever is bigger, that's incredible. I'm obsessed with that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I think along the same lines is go out and do things that feel really aligned to your values, and inherently you will meet people who have those same values. And it's something we can chat about it later, but it's something I'm kind of like not battling, but it's something I'm really thinking through right now, especially like moving to new environments, being really conscious and thoughtful about the people that I'm surrounding myself with, because, when you're building a foundation from the ground up, I really want to be very intentional about the people I have around me, because that's inherently who you become and inherently who you are. And it's actually interesting too, to look around and be like, you are a reflection of the people around you. Do I like the people around me? Do I align with this? And then realizing like, oh man, I don't, but I'm actually doing the same thing. So I'm there too,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And energy, we magnetize. Like we magnetize the frequency that we're vibing at.
Yeah.
And so it's being fully cautious of that. Like right now, so I'm in the parenting realm, and I'm sure we're going to delve into that, but I'm all about parenting, and people are like, well, what is your obsession about this? And I'll tell you what it is that our screens, these phones, are teaching our kids to push away from parents, and that we don't need the parent construct anymore. That, the voices that they're hearing is who they have to be, who they should be, and they don't need to listen to their parents anymore. And so now there's no more conversations. There's arguments. There's combativeness. Kids can say things to their parents that probably even when you guys were growing up, you would never even dreamt of talking to your parents that way. But you can go into a supermarket, you can go into a mall, you can go into a restaurant, and just if you observe the way these kids are talking to their parents, or lack thereof because they're on screen, so there is no more communication. That is what I'm going to put an end to. That is what I'm moving to stop. I want to put parents back as the main influencers of their children's lives, in order to create that family coherency that used to be, that has now separated, because it's all about control, and it's all about comparison. It's all about all the distractions that take us away from who we really are and what we need to be to our children and, to ourselves, actually.
It's such an interesting topic at the moment, and I'm so glad that we're going to talk about that because I mean, I'm kind of on the front line with that at the moment. I don't have a kid yet. Hopefully in the next few years I'll get to that point. But I have a godson and a goddaughter who, I'm extremely close with, and I'm watching them grow up. And, they're still kind of babies. One of them's 2, one of them is just 7 or 8 months old. And I think it's so difficult to parent in the 21st century in 2026, with the rise of phones and fast moving entertainment. I've watched it when they were born, when the first one was born anyway. My friend said, I'm not going to be that parent. It's not going to happen. And then the parents become overwhelmed and they don't know how to respond to it. And so I've seen it, after a couple of months, he was sticking his son in front of screens and, showing these colorful TV shows. And, I'm of the same opinion. I don't want to do that to my kids. But, it's such an interesting topic because how do you get to that point? How do you avoid it?
Well, we have to just like, even with, what Sasha, what you were saying before about like how to build this and where to go. And Josh, what you were saying is like looking at myself and looking at the people I was with and where they're at and where I'm at. Comparison steals your joy. And comparison is double edged because you kind of compare to see where you want to go, but then comparison also tells you where you're not. And so it's like how use comparison for a tool to keep reaching for what you want. Not to say, well, I'm not there, but it's to say, I'm not there yet. And when it comes to the parenting, it's the same thing. We're comparing, like, am I a good parent? And that's really what we want. We're striving to be a good parent. I'm writing this book right now called Parenting from Greatness. And I'm hoping to launch it this year because it's going to be literally the new, like, not a manual for parenting, but like, where are blind spots in parenting? Even when you guys were born in an era where we had internet. Like we were able to get online, we were able to do things. And now kids, like when your kids are born, think about this. We're going to be beyond AI by then. Like beyond that. We can't even fathom what that looks like to be beyond AI. But the kids born right now are born into AI world.
Yeah.
Which is vastly moving us in a direction. And people are, oh, I'm scared of this, I'm that. But again, what's the tool in it? We don't have to be scared of something we understand.
Yeah.
We breed fear by not understanding it. So get to understand it. We don't need to fear what kind of parent I'm going to be if I want to be connected to my kids. I want to be involved in my kids. I want to be engaged with my kids. I want to be present with my kids. If you know those 4 things, no matter what you do, you're not going to fail.
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting. I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, and she sent a voice message and was kind of going about all of these things about other people and feeling so behind. And I think it really touches on the jealousy point where she was feeling, and the comparison point where she was really comparing herself to the rate of someone else's success or someone else's love life. I said, listen, like jealousy and comparison it can steal your joy, and it's very possible. And you have to use it as a tool instead of saying like, oh, why is this person further ahead than me? Or why does this person have something that I don't have? Using that kind of ping in your soul and in your gut, be like, oh man, I wish I had that as fuel to be like, this thing is possible because I see someone else doing it. And it's this like kind of weird jealousy feeling that's happening. It should be a guidepost to be like, oh, this is what I want to go towards because I know it's something that I want, and allowing it to inspire you as opposed to beat you down and just show you proof that something is possible instead of feeling this like lack and scarcity energy that it's not possible for you. And I'm so excited. Like this is already like incredible to kind of
Well, real quick, I just want to, can I touch on that for just a second? Because no matter how old we get, it's still there. Like the other day, I saw something that a colleague of mine, a peer of mine had done. And I was like, how did she get to do that? Like she put it on that event. And I felt that what you were just saying in my gut. Right. And instead I'm like, what could I love about that? What could I love about her? How could I be more excited for her than I am? Oh, not me. And what is she doing that I'm not? So I can get that in my life.
Yes.
What's the momentum she had to get it done? What could I do? and it goes back to don't reinvent the wheel. Like I could call her up and say, I'm so proud of you. Would you mind giving me some tips of like, what did you do to like really launch that? Like it was so good. Do you have any contacts you could give me? And that's what people are afraid to do. We're afraid to ask for help. Like we have to do it on our own or we're not going to be successful.
Yeah. But success leaves clues. So might as well
Right.
ask. Yes. Might as well ask. I experienced something really, really similar when I lived in Miami. It's a healthy city in America per capita. Most people work out there and everyone there is gorgeous, abs, booties, whatever. You don't know what's real and what's plastic. So it's a little difficult as like a young female to differentiate. And I think I was a little challenged with body dysmorphia when I first moved there. And at first I used to feel so jealous of everyone's like physical fitness. And then after a while, I was like, I need to have a mindset shift. And like, instead of being like, oh, why is this person so like fit and in shape? And I had to switch it and be like, no, that person is beautiful and so healthy. And I'm so happy for them. And like, if I can be happy for them, like I know and enjoy that and know that it's possible, then it's something I'm going to invite into my own life as well and work towards it. And as far as like going into the meat of the episode, Veenu, like what kind of, I mean, you're sharing so much work that you've been doing and like your purpose, and what areas of life are like feeling really great right now? What needs like a little bit of TLC? Like what's happening in your world?
So I think right now, what I feel most incredible about is my career. Like if I'm looking at the life wheel, my career, like where I'm going with it, like I'm making huge shifts. So I'm going from just being a coach to being a coach for the elite and then training people to be coaches. So I just trademarked in America the parent child whisperer. So it's licensed to me now. That was a journey, but I got it licensed. So now I have my parent child whisperer coaching curriculum that I'm now teaching other people. It doesn't have to be parents, teachers, therapists, psychologists that really want to shift into the coaching modality, which is so different from therapy, to get certified to be a parent child whisperer coach. And my goal is to have so many all over the world that every family can afford a coach, because there'll be different pricings and stuff. So everyone can have a coach. Everyone can have a mentor in their home, helping them to recreate that relationship with their children or enhance it. So that has been really interesting. And of course, I said I'm writing my book, which is really, I think, going to catapult everything about what my purpose is in this world, right? To give kids a childhood they won't have to heal from. So that's probably what's best in my life. My relationship is really good with my kids and my husband, because as I'm writing this book, I'm actually learning from the book, because the information I feel like is being downloaded to me through me. Like I'm just like a vehicle of producing this book. And so I'm learning. And as I'm learning from writing this book, I'm actually seeing that my relationship with my kids are improving and my relationship with my husband's improving, because it's just a beautiful way of being present and not blaming and not shaming, and really just owning and taking accountability and taking action to make shifts in our lives. Friendship, everything is really good in my life. Like I feel like my life wheel is really balanced. I think the only thing I am looking at now is like financial IQ, is understanding about finances. Like everybody wants money. And then when you have money, you don't know how to keep it because you don't have the financial IQ about it. So I literally just joined, because I do look at my life wheel, and that was a question. I was like, what's lacking? And that was lacking in my life. And so I just joined Garrett Gunderson's group, the multipliers, to get that, because I want to learn it. I want to grow it. I want to make it better. And I am definitely not one of those people that sit around and say, oh, woe is me. This isn't working for me. If it's not working for me, I'm going to find out how to make it work for me.
100%. It's something too that I've also this year I'm really choosing to prioritize, is like the financial thing, because it can be, I feel like it's such a touchy subject for a lot of people, because it's like if you're afraid of it or if it's something that's stressful to you, you tend to avoid it, or at least that's what I did. It's like, oh, this is really stressful and I don't understand this world, so I'm going to avoid it and just put my head in the sand and whatever. And realizing that, if you don't measure it, if you don't track it, then it's going to go away. I forget what the quote was, but it's like someone said
You can't
that.
manage what you don't measure.
Exactly, exactly. And someone said that it's like, money is like a beautiful lover. Like if you don't pay attention to her, she goes away, So it's something that I started implementing this year called Money Mondays. So after work, every Monday, I'm like getting in peak state. So I have a money playlist of just like, just songs about, making tons of dough, and then just like getting hyped about it, and then spending like an hour or two intentionally looking at my finances or learning something about finances, or strategizing around the portfolio, something around that, just like putting intentional time into it. And then same thing with like the books too. I have a book goal this year, and then I want to read at least half of the books that I read. I want them to be finance books as well. It's like, okay, the best way to grow something and to learn something is to actively do it. How is this like mastermind? Did you just start it, or how's it going so far?
I have, but that's like the mastermind where it says create a vision bigger than your problems. Like it's more like people just think money is go make money, have money. There's so much more to it. It's like knowing about trusts, like, like your properties, your investments, like, is it insured correctly? Things I never even thought about. Like I literally was in a scarcity mindset when I started my journey back in 2007 to, okay, I'm not in scarcity mindset all the time. I got to be honest. It's creeps in once in a while. And yet I don't want that. So what do I need to do to create that abundance? And so like now I'm in this group and I have a financial coach. Like I literally just met with them this morning about like, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is what we need to do. This is where we want to go with this. Here's what the future is going to look like. What are your future goals with money? Like, what do you want money to do for you? And that's what we don't ask. Like, what do we want money to do for us? Because money is just a tool. That's all it is. It's not a tool to happiness. It's a tool to meet ends meet. That's what it is. It meets ends meet. Like where the ends meet, that's what money is for, for our basic needs, for our luxury. We do need money. I mean, it definitely is a need. But we don't, and this is what came to me in this mastermind group. I don't need as much money as I think I need. That was what's so interesting. Oh, I want to be a millionaire. And then they start asking me what I want to do. They're like, do you know you could do that with just $500,000? I'm like, I did not know that, because we don't have the financial IQ. We just think we want to be a millionaire. Oh, we want to be 5 millionaire. Oh, we want to be a billionaire. For what specifically? And this is all just coming out like with this financial group I'm in. And I've just never put the attention or intention on it. I just thought that, if I make money, I'll be good. And no, it wasn't, and it met my ends meet, but it just did not, I wasn't able to understand it, like there's so much about money that people need to understand that we just don't. We think we make it and we spend it, but there's so much more to money. And when you don't have the financial IQ, you'll never have that financial freedom that everybody's looking for.
100%. There's so many different aspects to financial IQ as well. I think it's really important, and it's something I've really struggled with in the past financially is, I think financial delusion, maybe if that's the right word, not fully understanding, as you said, what I want and how much money I need in order to get there. And so I think it's really important to break it down and actually think about, okay, well, when I have this money, what do I actually want with that money? And then breaking down how much you actually need to get there. And then you can actually look at how can you get to that level of money as well. And it becomes much easier and much more simple. So it's really interesting. I think financial IQ is such a enormously important part of our lives that I think so often goes amiss with a lot of people.
For sure. I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, it's something it impacts everyone so deeply. And I feel like more often than not, I really meet a lot of people who are maybe like kind of in that delusion state about it and don't do anything. But it's so great that you're actively doing something already about it. That's incredible. That's so awesome. Josh, what's going on in your world right now? It's been like a while since we've had a talk, which is so unlike us, but
It does feel like a while, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like maybe it's been a couple of weeks. Yeah, I've just come off the back of a really intensely manic day. It's just been kind of like back to back to back to back to back, and I felt kind of like I've been chasing my tail a little bit in a way. About an hour before we got on this call, I was just almost on the border of a panic attack. I was just like intensely feeling these stressful emotions, but I took myself away. I meditated. I was fine. But I spoke to my girlfriend about this just before jumping on here, and I said, I think I'm taking on too much at the moment. So Veenu, for context, I have recently, about a month or so ago, launched a new business, and I've been trying to kind of grow a following on social media off the back of that in addiction recovery coaching. And it's really, really drastically important to me that this works out. And so I'm putting everything I can into place, and I'm working on things, and I've got, this Sasha, we've spoken about this so many times with yourself, this endless to-do list every single day that I'm putting an enormous amount of pressure on myself to complete. And if I get to the end of the day and I haven't completed everything on that list, I beat myself up and I feel anxious about it. And that means that throughout each day, I'm feeling really chaotic and really anxious that I make sure I get every single thing on that list done. And I've never had that before because I've never really had this kind of hardcore focus on anything outside of my regular job. And I've always heard Sasha speak about it and, from her perspective in terms of this happening to her. And I feel like it's finally happening to me. So I actually sat down this afternoon, feeling super, super chaotic. I was in the middle of a meeting at work and I wrote down a very rigid schedule, implementing every single thing from my to-do list, and actually looked at, okay, so I can block this time, block this hour here, this half an hour there. And if I stick to that schedule, I'll be absolutely fine and I'll get everything done with no stress and not have to worry about time. So I'm excited to actually put that into place, starting from tomorrow. Today was one day too early, I think. But yeah, so you've caught me on a particularly chaotic day, but I'm generally pretty good. I'm excited about the business, which is doing insanely in terms of the growth. I'm getting literally dozens of leads at the moment, just more than I can even handle. It's crazy. It's going really, really well. I just need to convert them now into actual sort of paying customers, but it's just about managing my time. That's something I really need to work on at the moment.
It sounds like you have a lot of quality problems right now. And it sounds like your vision is bigger than your problems, which is great. And, I was in a situation like you many years ago. And what I have found, so I have felt like what you feel. And what I have found, Josh, is that the one thing I wasn't doing was celebrating. And I wasn't like looking at my end of the day instead of like, oh, I didn't do those 3 things, you suck. It was like, but you did these 6 things. Can we celebrate that? And is it possible we could take these 3 things and divide them up in the next 3 days so they'll still get done within the week? And let's just celebrate that we're able to do that because we are grown to be self-beaters and not self-builders. And a lot of us don't even know how to self-build because we think that if we just beat ourselves a little bit more, we'll do better next time. And we get into the cycle. And I know because I've been there for so many times in my life. And what I recognized is that the moments I take to celebrate what I have done, the fact that you're doing addiction recovery, I don't know if you know this about me, but I was going to be a addiction counselor and I had did all where I live, you have to do so many hours of volunteer work and you have to do AA meetings, NA meetings. You have to take these classes for 9 months. I did everything, like everything. And then I was ready to go sit at the state and take the exam. And I was filling out the application. I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I'm not. And I realized I was doing it because I was chasing how to fix my family because my family all men were alcoholics and drug addicts. And I was like, I'm going to save my family. Well, I could not save them. But I felt like I had to do something. And you know what? It wasn't my job to do something. And so I know how important your job is. And because people need that support and they need people that are like pulled towards that. So just to even celebrate, your gift in this and who you are and what you're bringing into other people's lives. And nothing's on fire. Nothing's
Yeah.
on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a conversation that Sasha and I have all the time about celebrating everything. It's a big theme, celebrating the small wins, celebrating the big wins, celebrating yourself, any kind of milestone. And I think in the early days of this launch, I mean, it's been a month, so it's still very early days, but in the first couple of weeks, I was celebrating every single thing that was happening. And I was feeling great about it. I was so excited. And I think when you celebrate, it's kind of like it's almost like a manifestation technique. It's a gratitude
for sure.
technique in that, you're celebrating and the universe gives you more of it. So I was very good at that in the first couple of weeks. But I think as more and more things have been added to my plate, because the business has been growing and I've been having to, build a website and I've been dealing with leads and just becoming more and more busy, which is a quality problem, of course. I think I've got lost in that and forgot to celebrate. And, there have been huge wins, not just, celebrating myself and the leads that have been coming through, but just enormous wins over the last couple of weeks in particular that I could never have even imagined happening in my first month. And I haven't celebrated them. And I've realized at the end of the week, I have these weekly goals, and I've realized when ticking them off, I'm like, damn, I didn't celebrate that. And I don't feel particularly good about it because my head is just so like a million things happening. But I think if I actually take the time to stop and breathe and cheer myself on, it will become much easier
Put that in your
and feel like
calendar.
it's worth it.
Like, put
Yeah,
that in your calendar. Like, at the end of the day, that your last task of the day is celebrate.
actually diarize it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I look at my calendar all the time. Like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And then before I go to bed, I look at my calendar for like, what time do I need to be up and ready tomorrow? And so if you just have that reminder right there, is like, did you celebrate? Just to remind you that's the last task. Like, they say make your bed so you have the first task already accomplished for the day. And then if you bookend it with celebrate, so you have the last task you accomplished for the day before you go to bed. It's like bookend your day, and that that you're already accomplished from beginning to end. But I wanted to tell you about this book I read. So I ended my year with the book called The Who, Not the How, which is an amazing book. I think everybody needs to read that because we're all worried about the how, instead of the who. Who's my who? Who's your who? And then the book I started 2026 with was The Big Leap. And everything you're talking about, Josh, is in The Big Leap. Timing and, oh gosh, everything. Like, I really feel like you'd appreciate that book. It's literally a 4-hour listen on audio, but I would listen to that book, The Big Leap, because it sounds like a lot of you, what you're doing, it's called upper limiting, that we have the ceiling of like, this is as far as we can go. And then after that, nope, can't go that far because they might look at me this way. I might get judgment there. My family might say this. And so unconsciously we back down, and it's called upper limiting. And like, that's exactly what we do when we're self-beating. We're upper limiting. Like, nope, we can't get that high. No way. Not today, because somebody else might say something. And we're not even consciously thinking that. It's an unconscious behavior that has been innate in us, that we have grown inside of us since we were children. And that book, The Big Leap, explains it beautifully, better than I can do right now. And I've recommended this to many of my clients because we're all doing it. We're all upper limiting all the time of like, oh, well, they can do that, not me. Well, oh, because their dad. Oh, because of this. No, that's just their who. Go find your who. Everyone has who's out there. We're just not looking for it because we're too busy looking for the how.
That's fascinating. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the reason I'm doing this is because largely of my how and my why. I have a very strong why behind it as
That
to
fuels
the
you.
reason and the background, and that's absolutely fueling me at the moment. But I think, it's definitely worth some reflection and definitely worth a read. So, The Big Leap, who's it by?
The Big Leap is by Gay Hendricks.
Okay.
And The Who, Not the How is by Dan Sullivan, who does strategic coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of pitching for strategic coaching, but ironically enough, like, I love how the universe just brings synchronicities into your life. So I read that book, and then I'm in Garrett Gunderson's group, and he references the strategic coaching. He's like, I did it. Like, I paid. It was a lot of money I paid. I got in it, and it just changed my life, strategic coaching. And I'm like, oh, like, damn, like, oh. And then he talks about the who, not the how. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is why I'm in this group. Like, everything. And that's why I read the book before I got the group. I didn't even know to read the book before I got in the group. And it's funny how the universe literally leaves clues.
100%.
Absolutely.
It's funny. I wrote both of those books down in my notes, and I mean, I have like lists of an ongoing list of all the books I want to read, and they sound so interesting. And it's interesting too, because, Josh and I talk a lot about celebration, and it's something that I always, every time he asks me or he tells me that he did something great, like, okay, how are you celebrating? And it's funny because we've talked about this at least a handful of times where we hit a year of doing this podcast and we're like, oh yeah, we're going to celebrate. And we brainstorm these ideas and then didn't do any of that. So it's something that I think we definitely need to do, like, as a co-host unit situation as well. Like, we're at almost 70 episodes. That is not a small feat, and something to celebrate for sure. And I think something that I've also kind of implemented too that might be helpful, Josh, is writing down what you're doing. I think so, like last year, I was obviously been working on the pod and I kept notes of everything I was doing so that I could look back and at the end of the month be like, wow, I actually did all of these things. Even if everything didn't get done on the to-do list, this is everything that was accomplished. And that's awesome. And like I moved the needle, and maybe it's not necessarily about getting it all done right there and then, but maybe it's just like progress in general. And I find also like, I mean, I've been challenged with this kind of mindset thing forever with all of these to-do lists and feeling ridiculously anxious and tough on myself and beating myself down about not getting everything done, which Veenu, that quote that you said, we tend to be self-beaters and not
Self-beaters, not
self-builders.
self-builders.
Yes. Switching to a self-builder is like, how can we do that in a effective way? And I mean, Josh, we've talked about this too. Like recently in the last couple of weeks, what I did was I brain dumped everything that was in my head and then scheduled it out through the quarter based on where I'm at in my feminine cycle, which isn't applicable to you, but for women listening, it is applicable. So that way I'm doing the tasks that make sense, but also I know like, oh, I have the whole quarter, everything's going to get done. And that way I can like break it down by day or week or hour, whatever I need to do in that chunk of time. And it's made it a lot easier for me to manage my stress levels because I'm just looking at what needs to happen that day instead of the mountain of things. And it's helped a lot for sure. And these are all great things and great challenges to have. Like the growth you're seeing is so insane. So it's also, a lot of times too, and this is something Tony talks a lot about with the art of achievement, science of fulfillment, like the state that you're in when you're doing the thing is how the thing is. So when you get to this goal, like you got to your goal of you're hitting these goals, you're hitting these benchmarks, and you're still feeling the same way. So how different is it going to be when you reach massive success and you're still going to feel the same way you're feeling now? So it's like, you might as well change how you're feeling now about it because, when you get there,
Absolutely.
you're going to feel the same way.
Yeah, no, it's funny timing. I actually made a video today, which I've posted on Instagram and TikTok, which is pretty much about that exact thing, but from an addiction perspective. In that, as an addict, for example, with me as a gambler, I would win big, and then I wouldn't feel satisfied, and I'd be looking at the next goal, and then I'd get that goal, and I wouldn't feel satisfied, and then I'd be chasing, and then I'd lose everything. And I think that's a great analogy kind of for a broader perspective on life, in that, if you're not satisfied and if you don't celebrate what you have, and if you're not grateful for what you have and what you've done and what you've achieved, it'll become much harder to achieve those heights, and you'll never feel like you have enough. And it's much more likely, from a mental health perspective at least, to all come crashing down. So I think celebration is, it's a great feeling, but it's not just a great feeling, it's just really, really important. I think from a mindset perspective, it's drastically important.
I think also for all of us that and all the listeners out there that feel that anxiety, that rush of, all a panic attack is your body trying to tell you to calm down. And because it doesn't know how, right? And so it's like goes into, I can't breathe, I can't do this. And I know because I used to have panic attacks. To remember, nothing is on fire. Like that analogy really helped me out. Like nothing is on fire. Like even if this podcast, like say I came 3 minutes late. Okay. So we start 3 minutes late. Like it's not on fire. Like nothing is going to change. It's releasing the control into the flow of life and the flow of love. There's this like mantra I listen to every day. Every day I listen to this mantra, and it's literally release control to the flow of love. That's the healing. And I listen to that every day. And like when and I'm starting to even notice, Josh and Sasha, the little things that I didn't realize I was controlling. Like littlest things. Like my son, I said, hey, I'll come bring your backpack you left at our house. I'll drop it off on my way. He's like, no, Mom, I'll just come pick it up. I'm like, no. I'll just come bring it. I'll leave it on your porch. He's like, Mom, really? You don't need to. I'll just come later. And I'm like, no, I'll just leave it on your porch. I won't disturb you. And I get off the phone with him, and my husband says, you didn't hear him. He said, he'll come later. Like, you're still trying to, and I'm like, oh. And honestly, I just wanted to save him a trip. I was literally driving by his house. I could drop it off. But again, that is still me trying to control something. And I'm telling you, it's because this mantra I'm listening to is like the universe is showing me ways to, that is something I did not need to do. That would save me 15 minutes right? 15 minutes it would have saved me. And we're talking about time here. Where do we throw our time? We throw our time into trying to control everything. Control takes more of our time than anything else does.
I could not relate more, honestly. It's something that I think last year with my travels, it definitely helped me to release that. And Veenu, for context, I was living in Miami up until end of 2024 and then went through a breakup. It was my call to adventure. And I spent the last year like eat, pray, loving, traveling all over. And it was wild. I mean, the places I've recorded from with Josh and the random times you recorded to was absolutely insane. And it really helped me release control because it's like, okay, surrender to the experience. Like, this is what it is. This is what it's going to be. There's nothing I can do about it. And I actually heard this really cool tool the other day from a friend where this thing called the stress triangle. So picture like stress at the top corner and the bottom two corners are number one, like do something about it. And number two is, accept it. And it's like, if you can't, okay, you're stressed because you don't know where to go in that situation. So if you can't do something about it, you accept it. And that's it. And a lot of times it's like we spend so much of our time and energy really worried about these small things and controlling over these small things where it's like at the end of the day, yeah, nothing's on fire. It's not life or death. And I mean, if it is life or death, okay, fine. Like stress out about it. But like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a ambulance driver. Like I'm not a firefighter, And I feel this way too about my 9-to-5 job. I work in like makeup and skincare and I sometimes feel so crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, everything's wrong. And then I'm like, it's literally lipsticks. Like if this person doesn't get their lipstick, yes, they might be upset, but it's not the end of the world. It's really okay. But I think like learning how to travel and just surrender to the experience and just being okay with whatever has taught me how to be more go with the flow. But we spend so much of our time and energy worrying about things that, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. Like if it's not something you're going to be worried about in 5 years, it's not something to worry about. If it's not going to impact your life in 5 years, it's not something to worry about.
Yeah. And what's the worst that could happen? It's a phrase that I always use, particularly with my girlfriend, because she's a bit of a warrior. She worries about things and about, what if this happens? And, what if at the moment, we're, again, for context, she has had to go back to India for a few months. She wasn't able to renew her visa. So we're kind of in the middle of long distance right now. And, a question she keeps coming back to is, what if it doesn't work out? What if long distance doesn't work out? What if the visa doesn't work out? And I'm like, well, think about it this way. What is the worst that could happen? I've been saying it almost every day for the last few weeks. What is the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is you don't get the visa immediately and, it's delayed by a few months and you don't come back until the end of the year. That's the way. And yes, it's pretty sad and it's going to be difficult to be away from you for those extra months, but
we have our whole life together. Like,
and we have, and is it on fire, as you said?
Right.
So, it's a really important question, I think, to ask in tough times.
Yeah, it is. And, I feel like there's so many distractions in our world. And if we really want to get time back, it's letting go of the distractions. It's knowing that, like, even I've got out of the habit of getting on social media. I went from being on social media probably 2-3 hours a day, just in between, like my husband's driving, so I'm on social media, to literally being on social media maybe an hour a week. And because I don't buy into the noise anymore. I don't need the noise. And I need social media. I mean, it's a media outlet. It's how we get, hey, if you need somebody to help you with your family because it's a disarray, call Veenu Keller. I need social media. But I don't need to watch social media. I don't need to buy into social media. I think of somebody and I'd be like, oh, like the other day, I thought about your sister, Bella, Josh. And I was like, I wonder what I'm like, oh, she got engaged. I mean, somebody will pop into my head out of the blue. And literally it was your sister, just out of the blue. Woke up, thought about her. I'm like, I wonder what Bella's doing, which is really weird because it's not like me and Bella are really close, but I've known her like I've known you guys.
Sure.
And so that's what social media is for me. Pop in, pop out, see what's going on. I do get caught up in some of these conspiracy theories just because it's my entertainment. And me and my best friend will go back down the rabbit hole together. But other than that, it's like, if I only had one day left on this earth, where do I want to put my time? Like, where's my time going to go? Is it going to go to social media? No, right now, I want to get my book done. Josh, you want to build that business. It's like, and people's like, well, it's only 2 minutes. Well, compound that
It's
and
not 2
compound
minutes.
that
You get in there
and
for 2
compound that.
minutes and it's an hour.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Light and time compounds. And so, like, I love what Garrett said the other day too. He's like, it's not who do you need in your life, it's who do you need to let go in your life. That's a better question.
Yes.
Because we're putting our time with people. The people you're putting your time with, are they your cheerleaders? Are they the ones that's like, you got it anyway? Stop beating yourself up because we're going to celebrate this.
Yes.
Those are the people that you, keep in your life. But the people that are like, oh, I know it's long. Oh, well, maybe you should just take a break. You know what? Gosh, you're doing so much. Maybe you just need to kind of stop a little bit. What? Why are those people in your life? You've just wasted 15-minute conversation for someone poo-pooing all over you instead of being with Sasha, who's going to cheer you on and say, keep going, you got this, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. We're always worried about who do we need to know? Who do we need to know? What do we need to do? But we're not looking at like, who are the anchors that are just holding you in place while you're swimming around in circles?
Yeah.
Cut the anchors.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently in the last couple of days. And I kind of feel like it goes full circle back to the beginning of the episode too, about like, you are who you surround yourself with 100%. And it's something that I've been thinking about, honestly, in the last like 24, 48 hours or so. I, obviously am new to San Diego. Like I know a handful of people here, but I'm not, like I haven't been here years and I don't know if I'm going to be here long term or not. So I've been hanging out with this friend and like their group of friends, and I spent the weekend with them like outside of San Diego. And at the end of the weekend, I was like I don't know if these people are like, I like my friend, but the people around them, I'm like, I don't know if these people are my people per se. Like if I'm taking a look at the people around me and I'm like, none of these people really inspire me. I don't really love how I'm acting around these people. I don't really love that, just like to give you an example, like these, I mean, we spent the weekend out in the mountains and they were snowboarding. I can't right now, but they were snowboarding. And I was like, there's a lot of drinking and a lot of substances happening. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I don't really like this thing. I'm like, maybe yes, it's just like one weekend where like everyone's partying because it's like the snow weekend, whatever. But I'm like, I don't really know if I'm like, do I want to be around these people? But then I had to take a look at myself and be like, but actually, I'm acting the same. Like I'm acting the same. I'm here with these people. I'm like Saturday waking and baking. Like what am I doing? If I don't like who I'm around, and then I have to reflect and be like, I'm attracting what I am, not what I want. Like you attract what you are, not what you want. So it's like, how can I be more thoughtful and strategic about it? And at the same time, how can I change my actions to attract people who are more aligned to me? Like, am I acting in a way that, if I saw Josh acting this way, would I be like giving him shit for it? Or would I be like, oh yeah, awesome. That's fantastic. So
High five.
yeah, high five. Like, no, like, just sitting here thinking about it. If my friend was acting the way I'm acting, would I be giving them a hard time about it? Or would I be giving them a high five and say, keep going? And, it kind of comes down to us at the same time. And it's like, yes, cutting out the people who maybe are not aligned with your values, not aligned with the direction you want with your life, and being really strategic and thinking about that. And it's something to really sit on and something to really think on. And it's something I'm really thinking about right now in this moment, especially as I'm moving from place to place. I want to be so intentional and so strategic about who I'm letting in my orbit. And thankfully, most of my relationships are long distance because, I haven't lived in one place for over a year at this point. So, I wonder how this quote kind of works, like the 5 people who you surround yourself with. I wonder if that's like the people you're most connected to as opposed to the people you
I think for
physically spend
sure.
time with. Yeah.
I mean, I think for sure. I mean, I have a couple of great friends here where I live, like literally 2. I guess 3 if you count my husband. But all my good friends don't live around me.
Yeah.
And we get on a call once a week, once every other week, at least once a month to check in with each other. And literally it goes back to what you asked me, like, how do I get my social fix, right? Like, who's my social group? It's the groups I'm in, the mastermind groups I'm in, and it's funny because like I'm in these groups and I'm the only one that's posting. And I made a comment and I'm like, and I had to think to myself, I said, well, I guess they're going to lose out because I'm playing full out. Like they're asking, they're like, hey, take your shot. There's 40 of us on the call, and he wanted us to put in there what our shot was. Like, name what you want. If you could not fail, what would you do? And it's very vulnerable, right? It's telling people like, this is what I would do. I would have my TV show. I would do this. I would do that. I was the only person out of 46 people who posted.
That's wild.
And at first I was like, oh, someone's going to post soon. And I thought, who cares if they post? Why am I putting my energy if they're posting or not? I'm going to post. I was asked to post. I paid for the group. I'm going to play full out. And guess what? You're going to watch me get trajectory in this group because I'm playing full out.
Yes.
You know, and that's just who I am. I'm somebody that if I'm going to jump in, I'm going to jump in with both feet, and I may not know how to swim the whole way, but I'm going to doggy paddle home, you know, like I'll get there.
Yes, I love that. I may not know how to swim the whole way, but I'm going to doggy paddle home. That's perfect. It's true. It's true. And I mean, like, at the same time, like, you are the person, and it says so much to your character too, that like you are the leader to step up and to be like, no, I'm going to be actively playing full out. I'm going to do it. And did anyone end up posting after you or no?
Nope. They've commented, they've liked it. But here's what I've learned in this other mastermind group I'm in with Bo Eason. And I made the sign up here right there. It says, I am the standard. And I had that made because I went to his mastermind group, and he said, there's no plan B. Plan B gives you distractions and excuses of why you can't get your plan A. And I literally came home to my son. So for context, I have 6 kids from the ages of almost 32 to 13-year-old twins.
Whoa.
And so I came home, and my 13-year-old said, like a while ago, he's like, oh, I'm going to be at the World Cup at 17 years old. And we're like, okay, but you should go to college just in case, like, you need something to fall back on. And so we've been saying that for years. When I came back from Bo Eason's, I said to him, I said, I owe you an apology. He's like, for what? I said, because I gave you a plan B. There is no plan B. You're going to you want to be in the World Cup by 17, you're 13. Let's put into AI and see what you need to do in those 4 years to get chosen for the World Cup. What do you need to do differently? Let's make a plan for you, only if you want to. And he's like, yeah. He's like, can you put this in a 7-day plan for me? I said, sure, let's do it. He's like, could you write it down on this whiteboard for me? I said, yeah, let's do that. And I said, and please forgive me, because you going to college is not your plan B. That's your plan A. Because at 30, 35, you'll retire. You'll need to know what you're going to do. So you might as well have college out of the way too while you're playing soccer. Right. And so we just continued it as a plan A. And that's what I learned from my mastermind group that I can do for my kids and my family and myself, is like, you set the standard.
Yeah.
You set the standard. You be the standard, Josh. You be the standard of what your addiction recovery unit is going to look like. Like, there's no one else out there that you're going to compare to, because you're going to create something that's never been heard of. Because you are a different person. You're at a different time. You're at a different age than a lot of these addiction people have been around, you know, and you have a different perspective on it. And so you're going to give the world something that they've never seen before, because you are going to be the standard. There's no more standard that you need to meet. So there's no more need for anxiety, because you're not meeting anybody else's standard. You're meeting your standard every day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, just talking about social circles. Yeah, one thing I was going to ask you both, but you've both kind of answered it yourselves already, was about, I think, especially in our 20s, it's very common to find social circles like what Sasha just described, you know, people who are into drinking and partying. And, you know, I would say a large part of my social circle still very much is that. So how, you know, at our age, do we find a social circle that is deeply inspiring, that is that level above us? I think it's quite difficult, but actually, you know, with what you were both just saying, I think it's about this being the standard.
Yeah.
It's about setting that standard. It's about being that person, and you attract it. It's difficult to maybe go out and find it, but if you are that person, you're putting that energy out there, you attract it. It comes.
Yeah.
So
You
it's
attract what
a
you
really
are,
interesting
not what
point.
you want.
Right. And I'm going to say, like, even in my social circles, everybody drinks. So everybody is like pounding down, let's do shots. I'm like, oh, I don't do shots. But if you have Moscato, which most people don't have Moscato because they say it's just like a little bit of a grape juice, I'll have a glass of wine. Right. And I'm good with that. Like, I don't like the taste of alcohol. I used to drink and force myself to like the taste of alcohol, to be with everybody else. And my husband does not drink. We'll go places and he will get a sweet tea. We're in the South. Sweet tea is his thing. and he's fine. He's not uncomfortable. He made a decision 9 years ago, no more alcohol. He did not like who he was with alcohol. And he knew that he could not drink. It was not great for him. And he made that decision. But he has not allowed it to take away from our social life because he is his standard.
Yeah.
There's no when you are your standard, there's no peer pressure.
100%. Like when you set those
just not.
boundaries within yourself, like other people
Right.
have to respect those boundaries.
And I'm not going to control you. I'm not here to control you. You want to wake and bake? Great. I'll meet you on the slopes.
Yeah.
Like I'll still go ski with you. I'm not going to do that. So it's
Exactly.
like you're not choosing not to hang out with people because you can still. I have a great time with people, and they drink and all this stuff. But I don't. Like I choose to. I'm also in my 50s. So in my 20s and 30s, I really wasn't thinking about what I was putting in my body and what I was doing in my body. I just didn't. And now in my 50s, 100%. I'm actually going to Antarctica next week.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like my top dream destination right now.
And I'm doing it because I'm going to be forced to unplug. Like there may be internet, but I'm not going to get internet. Like I am going off the grid for 10 days. But I'm doing it because it's about longevity, business, and AI, the 3 areas of my life that I want to focus on. And like Dave Asprey's going to be on there. Laura Huff, Wim Hof's daughter, is going to be on there. And so I want to learn, and I want to, in your 50s, it's appreciation. It's appreciation that I'm here. It's appreciation of what's next. It's appreciation to know that I'm not too old to keep going. Like life is just beginning. If I could be anything for you guys, it's like you're not too old to start.
100%. I
Yeah.
mean, things are just getting started, really.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. I think that's a very common kind of misconception again in your 20s, is that especially when you come to sort of mid to late 20s, as you're starting to approach your 30s, like both of us are,
Yep.
that it's too late and that we're old and that, we can't do certain things anymore and it's too late to get started. But it's not. Like in reality, in the grand scheme of life, it's really not. There's so much more life to live and so much more to do.
For sure. And you know what's fun is that you guys are like in your 30s, right? You guys are just starting your 30s.
No, I'm like late 20s. And so is Josh. Josh's 29.
Okay. So you guys
Yeah.
are getting ready to go into your 30s.
Yes.
You guys are going to start over so many times. And it just keeps getting more and more fun because the more and more things come up. Like I just got introduced to Claude. I love Claude. I used to love ChatGPT. I don't even use ChatGPT anymore. Like Claude is like such a different entity of AI. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know this was possible. And like what it's exciting.
Yeah.
Right? It is exciting. Like this is an exciting time of the world. And that's how I want to see it. That's how I choose to have my lenses. This is not a sad time. It's not a difficult time. It's not a bad time. It's not an awful time. Are awful things happening? Sure. Are awful things coming to light? Sure. But here's what I have learned. I can't change the past. The past is over. The past is over. We can only make the future better. And the only way I can make my future better is by seeing it through the lens of excitement.
Yes, 100%. I feel like with AI too, it's such a relevant conversation because it's very polarizing. People are either very afraid of it and kind of anti, or they're really excited and understanding that this is like the new internet. This is going to change everything so drastically, so quickly. So it's like if you don't learn how to use it, it's going to learn how to use you. And, it's a very polarizing thing, but it's like, it's so exciting. Might as well get on board and, grow from it and not let it take over your life. So yeah, wow. It's incredible. I can't thank you enough for coming on. This was so amazing, this conversation. It was definitely one of my favorites that we recorded. It's so incredible. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on and making the time. And we love being able to connect with everybody and see what everyone's up to. I mean, I know I just ran into you at Date with Destiny in December. It's just, after so much time. And thank you so much for your service too, because I know you were volunteering in our generation, and we ended up volunteering too, but thank you so much for, your work too, because, it touched our lives. I'm sure it's touching other people's lives and like making so much of a difference, and I just appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you. I love being here with you guys. Welcome me back anytime. We can have more discussions.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, 100%. All right, y'all. So we'll catch you guys next week on Mastermind Moments, and we'll chat soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow along on social media.
If you would like us to help you mastermind something in your life, please send us a message.
We'll see you next week on the Mastermind Moments podcast.